Hey, Redcasters, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. Go Big Red.
Welcome to the Go Big Redcast, the Husker Fan Sports Show.
Welcome to the Go Big Redcast. I'm your host, David Gaspers, and I'm with Honky.
Whatever hot take I had, which I really didn't think of one, it would have been completely lost anyways by the pre-Redcast stories that Rob was giving about a golf trip. So I want to get those things as far out of my head as I possibly can. But hey, it's good to be back, fellas.
With that said, Redcast Rob's back from a successful Western Nebraska golf trip. Keep it clean, Rob.
Oh, absolutely. And I just, thanks for letting me go second, Dave, because as you know, by letting Honky go first, we were set up for that failure, and we just, made sure that I brought it home here in the second take.
That's true. It's all about how you finish in the back nine, really. And also with Boomer.
Yeah, I'm just busy here reading an article you sent, Dave, on how we can better increase our viewership with YouTube without having to resort to Mr. Beast type ploys. So just like to announce here, I'm canceling our proposed contest of spend 100 nights in South Stadium and win $100,000 challenge. So that's going to be put on the back burner for now.
That's a good idea.
Honky, did you see that article?
I did not. What was it about?
It's valuable reading because obviously we have a huge social media following. What size of Nebraska town are we at now, Honk?
We're about 32,000 now, so we're almost at Kearney size.
Kearney, or we're going to take Kearney over. But there was this whole story about Mr. Beast, who apparently is a YouTube phenomenon, and he's the guy who has kind of cooked the algorithm that requires us to have shouting heads and really bad, colorful font graphics and whatnot, because he has like 8 billion followers or something. There's more people following him than on the earth, apparently.
That's the one that we've never been able to crack YouTube. So the other things we've done great with
Mr. Beast code.
I guess, we'll have to give Mr. Beast a call.
Yeah, but the whole story was like there's some other YouTubers out there now that are going like anti-Mr. Beast, and they're having success. So there's hope for us after all.
Oh, so, good. Yeah. It's good to know.
Yeah. It's just Nebraskans. We like to do it our own way, right?
Yep.
Back on the show here, a little kind of late spring, summer's almost here type show where we're going to talk a little baseball, break down some things about Husker football, especially with the schedule, and then maybe go big picture and chat about all the comings and goings of college football with lawsuits and realignment. Lots of fun stuff that Honky really likes to talk about, and stuff that he really likes to sink his teeth into in the off season, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, you had to come. I was dragging and kicking to do the show tonight.
Well, let's talk about some of the fun stuff first. With a little baseball, we'll throw up around the Van Horn. Arkansas is doing quite well again this year, like usual. But you know what? It's weird. I can sit here and we can complain about midweek failures and first round losses in the Big Ten tournament and not getting a 1 seed. But really, the resume that Will Bolt and his crew has put together is pretty solid. We are safely in the NCAA tournament. We're highly likely a safe 2 seed. We really can't move up or down. Even if we win this tournament that we're in right now, we are not going to get to a hosting position, and I don't see us dropping to a 3. So, Honky, as a, kind of a Husker baseball fan that, is always trying to get us back to the Dave Van Horn days, I think maybe it should be satisfying for us that we feel a little bit disappointed with this season because we're not going to host a regional. How do you feel about that statement?
Yeah, when I pay attention to social media, it seems like the biggest frustration that a lot of the fans have is that we finished second in just such a crappy conference. The conference is so bad. It's so bad in that, it's all or nothing. You got to finish first or it's a wasted year. And I'm curious a couple things there. Number one, everything to your point, we're going to make the postseason. We're going to be in a regional. We're going to be a 2 seed. We have a top 30 RPI. There's a lot of positives that, you could come out of this season. But the other thing is, I wonder how different that perception changes in a year when the USCs and Washington's and UCLA and Oregon join the conference as well. Does that start to change some things a little bit? Now, obviously, finishing second means something different a year from now, but right now there's just so little room for error for this staff. But I will say, at the same token that I say that, getting swept by Creighton doesn't do them any good.
That's right. That's a good call. Correct.
The blowout the other night, I mean, there isn't a whole lot of excuses you can make for that. And I'm guessing that Bolt was every bit as upset as any Husker fan was. It sounds like they stayed in the dugout for quite a while afterwards, and the team came out and played a little bit different last night, so that's good. I am curious. I'm a big Husker fan, but I'm pretty much a baseball novice when it comes to the X's and O's of it. Does it really ever work when people don't pitch their best guy and try to hold them? I know there was some talk of giving Sears an extra day, although he would have pitched on Thursday of a week ago, so he kind of had an extra day on the front end. But
Tuesday, though, he was still a short day short. Still would have been a day short.
Day short. It just seems like you see that every once in a while, like where people sit the best guy, and I guess it just opens them up for that kind of criticism after that game. I mean, if he wins, he's a genius, and if he doesn't, then it's
that's exactly where I wanted to go with this, Honky. I can throw it to Boomer or Rob, but I mean, in my sense, it was a calculated risk, right? I mean, it's a risk reward scenario there, and the reality is that, I mean, Will Bolt very likely knew what I just said, is that they're locked in kind of to a 2 seed, right? I mean, they can go win this tournament, not lose a game, still 2 seed. Go 0-2, probably a 2 seed. Maybe they're moving around, geography is a little bit there, but reality is they're probably, the 2 seed in College Station or Stillwater or Norman, or I don't know, maybe out on the West Coast, something like that, right? I mean, it just kind of feels like that's what's going to happen, right? And so, like, I guess in that perspective, if you feel like you're locked in as a 2, the best way to win the tournament and not exhaust your pitching staff is to go win the first game with your midweek guys, right? Because then you have your number 1 guy for game 2, and you really want to go 2-0 in any tournament like this. You go 2-0, your odds of winning the tournament go exponentially up. So if you can go and win with your midweek guy who happened to throw no hitter against a pretty good opponent a few weeks ago, and then come back with your number 1 guy who was the Big Ten pitcher of the year, you're sitting pretty at 2-0, and you're not going to exhaust your staff, and you have a good chance of winning the tournament. Honestly, if it doesn't turn out, you move on, and you're still a 2 seed. That's how I look at it, right? So, Boomer, I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair way to look at it. Yeah, you just had to see what are we able to get out of the tournament. Now, obviously, you don't want to limp into it. That's why winning, yesterday was such a big deal. You'd hate to, be 0-2 and booted out right away with those kind of performances. And, and I think the other big issue in that first game for me, it wasn't just, the pitching question. Boy, the batting was just awful. I mean, they were getting mowed down, just at bats. The at bats were terrible. They weren't making good contact, just chasing things. And, that was a problem too. So we can't put it all just on a pitching decision that first game, but you just have to put that game behind you now and just, finish with some momentum in this tournament to set yourself up for the NCAA regional. Because like Dave said, there's not a whole lot you're going to be able to get out of this at this point in terms of a seating change or a position at that point. So,
yeah. And Rob, I mean, you look at 15-2 and you're like, oh my God. And they got 10 run in the 7th. This is disastrous. But after you get down by so much in a game like that, I mean, do you think Bolt is going to run out? Did he run Drew Christo out to try to calm everything down and get three innings of no run ball? No, he didn't. He saved Drew Christo for the next day.
Who came out and pitched like what, three and a third, like,
yeah,
or was it 3 innings? He pitched 3 innings. Yeah.
Sears went 6 and Christo went 3, and that was it. They only used 2 pitchers.
Yep.
Right. So like, I mean, like the 15-2 that's tournament ball at that point. In my point, you go down by so much, you throw in the white flag and you're moving on. Right.
Yeah. I mean, and surprisingly, Dave, I 100% agree with you on this one. It's true though, because you know what, game 1, and I don't throwaway game would almost be just an insult to the game in itself, but it wasn't a must win situation. Right. And so you don't want to go out and take your best pitcher, throw him out on a day short of rest. You get to keep your rotation now in its normal rotation. You're even giving your day 2 guy an extra day here because they're not playing on Thursday. And, now they get to go out and win 4 games in a row, and they can do that. And it's weekend at that. So, it's not, we've already got our midweek game out of the way, and we're about to go into the weekend here.
That's right. We do play much better.
And we've got a fully rested bullpen, which is fantastic. Because there are a lot of good pitchers. We have the best ERA in the conference. We have the 5th best ERA in the country. Our pitching staff, regardless of what the Twitter warriors want to talk about and the negative Nancys and all of those guys, or I'm sorry, the ex-warriors, whatever you want to call them, our pitching staff is fantastic for a college baseball pitching staff, right? Like, that's something people got to understand. Our ERA is right where, one of the top in the country. That's the end of it. There's no arguing the numbers. That's what baseball is. It's numbers.
So McConaughey probably tomorrow then?
Definitely McConaughey tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah. And,
hopefully he pitches all right.
2 o'clock. 2 o'clock tomorrow on BTN.
Yes.
It would be great to get to the weekend for momentum reasons, but also, this is in Omaha, and it's big for Husker Nation to be able to show up. And it's hard to do that in the middle of the week like this. If we can get to some games here on Saturday and Sunday and play for something,
tomorrow, nothing else, Saturday game, absolutely.
It's just big for Husker Nation needs to be able to go to events like this. And we've talked about that forever, Dave, that shared moments where fans can get together. And we've seen it with volleyball over the years. And we saw it with basketball, both teams this year, where they make it to tournaments and you're playing meaningful games. It gets people together. And so for baseball, that's the one thing I don't want to miss that opportunity, even though I agree with everything about where we'll be seated. This is a great opportunity for us to go out strong in Omaha in front of a lot of Husker fans.
And I don't want it to come off as I think Bolt just gave up game 1. It was a strategic, it was calculated risk. If Jackson Brockett goes out there and has a great game and gets you 6 good innings, you can beat Ohio State with your hands tied behind your back, and you are set. Right at that point, you feel like your ticket to the championship game has already been made practically. Right, it didn't happen. Right, But
it's total. Total armchair quarterback for us at this point to sit there and say anything back. Because if it works, he looks like a genius. And when it doesn't work, then
you'll probably see us at some point in one of the 16 regionals. One of the 1 seeds is going to feel like they can beat that 4 seed with anybody they throw out there, and they are not going to put their one out there. It's going to happen, right? I don't know. Speaking of the opportunities for fans to come together, one of the random fun memories we have, I have anyway, is that the first Big Ten baseball tournament that was in Omaha, I came back for actually. I had tickets for all the games, I think I remember right. And then we went to the championship game versus Indiana that had Kyle Schwarber. That was a great Indiana team with Tracy Smith as the coach, and went to the College World Series and was good enough to win it. And we tailgated outside, and it was just a blast, right? It was like Memorial Day weekend, and really good time. Wish I was back there this weekend and we could do it again on Sunday. So anybody out there who's thinking about going out to the game on if we win tomorrow, coming out on a Saturday, go do it, because it's a great time.
Yeah, play hooky tomorrow at work. A lot of kids were getting out of school today on Thursday, so heck, show up tomorrow. It's a Friday, 2 o'clock, should be a nice afternoon. Get out there, support them, and let's get a win. Let's get to the weekend. And at that point, even though you had to go through the losers bracket, I wouldn't want to play Nebraska in the weekend, with some momentum coming under them with like you said there, Rob, a lot of the staff is rested. They only had to pitch 2 guys last night. And so, there's a lot of opportunity still here in Omaha. The first GIF that we posted, I keep screwing this up. Is it GIF or GIF? Boomer, you always know.
I'm a GIF fan. Yeah.
Is it GIF? Okay.
G stands for graphic.
So the one that we posted right away after the other night was, the Major League Tom Bandera showing let's win the whole effing thing, and it was just like, well, let's just do it then. Okay, fine. We screwed up the first night. Let's just win it all now. And it's such a terrible conference. Let's just win it.
Yeah, right.
Terrible
right,
conference.
exactly.
It's fourth in the country in RPI.
There you go.
For the record.
Honestly, to talk about that just a little bit. So, I mean, as we've said, Nebraska, if you look at any of the projections, any of the bubble talk, we are solidly in the field. No one is even questioning that. RPI is too good. Let's commend Bolt and his team for scheduling, and they got the non-conference right this year. They beat, Charleston and et cetera, where like
Kansas
those
State.
are all like top 100 IPI games, and they did a good job there. They are in because of that non-conference. The rest of the conference, a lot of them are top 100 teams. We didn't get drugged down too much by our opponents this year per se, just not high enough to really get in as an at-large conversation outside of likely Illinois, who won the conference, is going to be a feather in their cap. Their RPI is a little weak, but I think, they still think they can get in as a second team. And then we're looking at potentially, if it's not Nebraska or Illinois winning this tournament, a third auto bid, right? And Indiana is one of those teams that, they're trying to play themselves on the right side of the bubble, regardless of the auto bid. But I think, they're going to be motivated. If we beat Ohio State tomorrow, we're going to get the best Indiana team you can get on Saturday for two full games. So it's going to be a chore, but that could be fun. So we'll see.
Yeah. And to the point of the conference, I joked earlier by saying, it's just such a terrible conference. Look at a team like Maryland. They had a good RPI and they had a great non-conference. And then it was when they got to
10 and 14 in the league.
Yeah, they don't even finish in the top 8. They're not even playing in Omaha.
Yeah,
and that was a team that there was a lot of aspirations coming in the season with that
they
team.
fully thought they were in the tournament.
Well, and even and Dave pointed out before the show too, and I might as well mention is that even Iowa, they got a first round draft pick pitcher, and all these expectations, and they're done.
Boy, they got hosed today. Holy smokes.
So I read that rule. I'm glad you brought that up, Hunky. I read that rule, and part of that rule with the interference also pertains to verbal distraction, verbal interference. So while the slide was clean and the whole play looked clean, there's a good chance that maybe the runner was saying something or yelling something at the guy before he threw the ball to first.
Saying like Noonan on your back
or something. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm guessing that could be to me, that's the only explanation that happened, but it's the rule. So maybe they're just following it to the letter.
None of that happened on the trip, right, Rob? We didn't have any of those shenanigans. Hey, Rob, by the way, did you post the picture of the crew?
I absolutely did, and I believe the Redcast retweeted it. And
yeah.
We got
I just thank Redcast.
I'm sure Boomer
helping sponsor the trip, actually. So it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Who helped sponsor that?
Well, we posted that through. We had polo shirts, golf shirts from Mizzen, Maine.
Oh, okay.
And the only reason we were able to get them, they gave us free shirts, koozies, hats. What else did we get, Rob? Other stuff.
Like golf tees. We had a big flag that they
those
sent
are
us.
really nice golf shirts.
Really
we got
nice.
those free.
$100
because we have so many followers on social media through the Redcast. And obviously it was producer Skip, myself, and Rob being a part of the huge crew there. So just shout out to all the listeners and followers because you helped us get a sweet golf shirt.
Boomer, if you can find that photo, Boomer, on social media and post it, them golfing there last week.
Yeah, it's there somewhere.
We were at Iron Horse and Bayside, both two phenomenal Nebraska courses. Wild Horse. Sorry, Wild Horse. I apologize.
Iron Horse is down the street from there, I think. Right? Is that right?
Wild Horse is a beautiful course, though. A lot of fun to play. Super great hospitality there in Gothenburg, and
that's just greens I've ever played on. It was like putting on a billiards table. Fantastic. But I was loving it. I was loving putting. That was my favorite. That was the best part of my game all weekend, which is fantastic because I couldn't tee off to save my life. They'd be like, "Hey, Rob, we're gonna kill your family if you can't hit this drive straight," and my family would all be dead. So
it was one of those weekends. Well, anyway,
free up my time to play more golf.
Boomer, the wrap up baseball with the we're going to know where we're heading on Monday, right? Selection Monday. and like we just said earlier, highly likely a 2 seed. It kind of depends on where we fall. We've seen College Station on some projections. I've seen Norman, Oklahoma, which I love because I don't think Oklahoma's that good. Thoughts on where we might land?
Yeah, those are the ones I see. Just the ones you mentioned. A&M keeps coming up a lot. Wouldn't that be just completely out of the blue to have us play A&M in a postseason? Yeah.
Oh my God, they're totally going to do that, aren't they?
Yeah, those are just likely. And like you said, Dave, there's really just the position is what it is now at this point. It's just a matter of where do they decide to seed us, or excuse me, which region do they decide to put us in? So,
Honky, random, just fun question. I know you don't know who the likely top 16 seeds are. If just for the fun of it, like where would you love to see Nebraska get sent to? Not like whether it's easy or hard, but just like it'd be cool to say like, hey, they went and played so and so wherever.
Oh, it'd be awesome to. We never get to play A&M in anything. I think that would be a lot of fun. Love to go down to College Station.
I think you're joking there. So maybe what's your second option?
Well, that's a good question. I would love to go somewhere north, maybe like Oregon State or something. I have no idea how good they're doing this year, but it'd be fun to do something like that. Or if it was just for a completely different type of scene, like Mississippi State has an awesome setting there with that outfield, and like don't they have like the RVs or whatever that pack up against it? So
which I think
I guess that could be kind of cool.
They remodeled a little bit.
I'm not as up on my baseball stadiums as I would be football, but just trying to think of some kind of unique setting, something cool that would fit the bill too.
That could be your next vacation series with the Mrs. Hockey. It's just taking all the college baseball stadiums around the country. That'll kill a lot of time.
We're going to Washington, Oregon, Alaska this summer, and Alaska is not going to offer a lot, but we're going to hit Washington, and then we'll hit both Oregons. And when I'm in Corvallis, I got to see it.
Alaska has a wood bat league, so check that out. While you're
yeah. Actually, they
a lot of Nebraska kids go up there. Actually, so.
Yeah, I have some friends that live up there, and they were mentioning that. So we'll be up there kind of right around that time. So
there you go. That would be
for what it's worth. I've looked at 4 different sites as far as like where teams project will be going, and so far, two of the 4 have projected us in Norman. One is in Arkansas.
Yep.
I do not see anybody sending us to A&M, and I'm currently on 24/7 site, and I haven't seen it pop up yet, but it looks like, geez, where do they have us? I know this is riveting podcast talk right here because I'm trying to find out. They have us. This one is so 3 of the 4. 3 of the 4 is the Norman regional. They have us in Norman.
Yeah, I think Norman might be the ticket, which honestly tells you that. I mean, honestly, from a geography,
they respect us from a fan standpoint, is what it means, because it's a short
standpoint. Trip. I mean, Oklahoma's not one of the top 8 seeds, so I mean that's
they're a 7 seed. Actually, they have them as the 7 seed.
Oh, 7
on this one as Oklahoma. But what I think though, Dave, is to your point, is that as a 2 seed playing closer to home, knowing that our fans will travel there, right? Like that's the whole point of it, right? And they have us and I've seen like 2 of the 3 or 2 of the 4 or 2 of the 3 that have us in Norman have us playing with Little Rock and Alabama, as well as obviously.
And we played Oklahoma already. Played Oklahoma early in the year, lost 7-6. I mean, it was a close game.
Yep,
so.
Close game.
Yeah,
close game.
Yeah, it was.
All right. So, well, should be fun. Hopefully they can win a few more, maybe a lot more this weekend. And I'm looking forward to some NCAA tournament baseball action next week. Let's throw on the scarlet colored glasses real quick and let Honky take over the show pretty much. And just chat Husker football a little bit. And maybe first thing we should talk about are Friday night home games. Opinions. Honky, what do you think? Sounds like we are going to be hosting a Friday night home game in Lincoln this year.
Yeah, this is the price that we pay for what we're going to receive from the TV contracts, right? I mean, there's big money that comes in, and you have to earn it, and I know there's going to be fans that are mad that Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State aren't playing on these, but it is what it is. It's our first time playing a home game on a Friday night, and it really is. I will say it is a unique, weird situation where our 5 away games, one of them we're already playing on Friday, and that's of course against Iowa, but the other 4 are all homecoming games for the other team. So they're not going to try to play a Friday night game on homecoming. The bigger issue I have with that is why are so many teams scheduling us for homecoming? That for
they're going to
Redcast,
regret that. They're going to rue the day.
They're going to rue the day because all their homecomings are going to be completely. Like they're going to be completely ruined.
Pretty much boomer.
Yeah. So I get it. It's frustrating for high school fans and coaches there. It from a logistics standpoint, it's going to be nuts in downtown Lincoln. We saw what happened last year, and kind of as a precursor to it, we saw with the volleyball day that was on a Wednesday, and it basically shuts down campus. If you're a downtown business, you think about where your normal parking and all that stuff is. All that kind of gets blown up. So there's logistics that have to be figured out by it. But I guess if I'm putting the positive spin on it, this isn't Fox Sports or FS1. This is Fox, and this is a chance for us against Illinois, a game where we normally would not have had near the attention that we're going to get. It's an opportunity where we're hopefully sitting at 3-0 after winning our first 3 games all at home, and now we're playing the 4th of 4 games all at home and ending that home stand with a win. It's an opportunity for Dylan Raiola or whoever the quarterback is, I guess, but to really show off this team in front of a national audience, get a win like they did a year ago against Illinois, and you can build a lot of momentum from that. And so I've kind of said all along, just season wise, that my expectation is for us to be 4-0. I know some people talk about 7-0. They're looking really far down the schedule. I just want us to win these 4 home games. We need to protect home, and let's be 4-0 when we go on the road for the first time at Purdue.
Yeah. All right. So I've got 2 follow-ups. One kind of like myopic on the season. So I'm going to throw that to Rob, and that is in positive light, Rob, is in the sense that, like, to Hockey's point, if there was a Friday night game at home that you were going to play, this might be the one you wanted to choose, right? In the sense that you've been home, you haven't traveled at all yet. You are traveling the next week for the first time. Is that right? And you're buying yourself an extra day, actually. You should be able to be ready to play on a Friday night in that situation against Illinois, and then be able to buy yourself an extra day on your road trip. So, like, just focused on schedule and when would you rather play a Friday night home game, this is not bad, right, Rob?
No, this is actually a perfect time to do such a thing, especially if we're 3-0 and going into that game, especially if Raiola is sitting there on track to become the first, freshman. I don't even know if this is true, to win the Heisman Trophy. I mean, I tried to say that with I tried to say that with a straight face. I'm sorry.
Dino Rob.
I ruined that clip.
It's okay.
No, but I mean, yes, Dave, I do. And I think it's great. And I actually started looking, and I'm already started to drop hints like, hey, babe, I know I'm going out to Nebraska for the Colorado game. And then the following week, I'll be out in Arizona with my sister for for Green Day and Rancid. And, hey, how would you feel if I went out for a Friday night game and I was home by Saturday afternoon? Because, I mean, I can't imagine spending an entire Friday with Honky.
You've got the sickness, Rob. I can tell it.
Oh, I mean, it's only 6 hours, and by myself, it goes so fast. And I could probably get some work stuff done on like the Thursday before.
Totally.
Dave, to your point, though, just as a pure scheduling thing, you look at last year, and for the 4th year in a row, we started the season off on the road, in that case, twice at Minnesota, at Colorado. Then we play Michigan, and when we have our Friday night game, we're playing at Illinois 6 days after we played Michigan at home, right?
Yeah.
So just comparing apples to apples, last year's schedule was that. This year, we don't start 2 games on the road. We play 4 straight games at home. And when we do choose to play our Friday night game, we're not going on the road after playing Michigan. It's 6 days after playing Northern Iowa at home. So, I mean, when you add all that up, just comparing the logistics of the schedule, this makes so much more sense. It's so much more favorable to us of a start and than it was last year. And I mean, that's what we're looking for right now. We're trying to, it's one thing to let's get to a bowl game, but let's get 4-0. Let's win those first 4 games at home that we should be favored.
Yeah, this will actually be Illinois' first road game of the year too. So
There you
you have
go.
that
There you
advantage catching them, the first time they travel all season.
Right.
So
Quick
there is
follow up.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
Quick
Rob.
follow up. No true freshman has ever won the Heisman. Manziel did it as a redshirt freshman, and then Jameis Winston also did it as a redshirt freshman. So I stand to my point. When Raiola wins the Heisman Trophy this year, and we are, 17-0, something along those.
Right. Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, I love it. Kool-Aid. Boomer. So not so myopic, like just more like programmatic, I guess. Do you blame this scenario of playing a Friday night home game, which you have mentioned logistically seems to be a complete nightmare for the city of Lincoln in general, on the feet of Sean Eichhorst entirely? Or do you think they were just inevitable? Or do you think Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State will have to succumb to this essentially? I mean, I get where Honky's saying is like, hey, this is actually Fox legit. There's actually, they had like 12 games this year. They are clearly trying to corner the market on Friday night games. And do you think that the other schools will eventually follow this? Or should we put our a line in the sand way back in the 2016s that no, we're not doing this?
Well, a couple of things. First off, the logistics of it is going to be a challenge. Downtown Lincoln's pretty tight. Stadium's right down there. There's a lot of parking issues that are going to be in there. We did have the, what you kind of could call it a dry run with the volleyball game. I think the one big difference between that is going to be, I don't think volleyball has that tailgating scene like you normally associate with football.
Well, yeah, they never did that before. So
so that's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. How early are people going to try to get down here to, the tailgate on a Friday? That's a big part of a lot of people's football experience. So, and how are they going to work that out? And the downtown businesses, how do you work out the parking and the parking garages? And are they going to cancel classes, that Friday? I mean, probably, but, we'll see what happens at that point, just to clear out the parking spaces, essentially, is what it'll have to be. So there's a lot to figure out. It's not insurmountable. We played games on Thursdays before, and, it can be done, but it is a challenge, especially, just to this scenario. And like you said, Dave, it is on Fox, and Fox does seem to be making a big push for this. I mean, they're really pushing the Friday games. I mean, I know our other great passion in the Redcast is pro wrestling, but Fox used to have, a WWE SmackDown on Fridays, and that drew quite a few eyeballs to them. So they're used to having kind of marquee TV on Friday nights that would routinely draw, 1.7 million views a night. So they want something that's going to kind of, continue to provide those kind of eyes to the Fox network on Fridays. So they're going to be looking for games, with high quality teams. They're not going to always want to put, Purdue and Rutgers on a Friday night. No offense to our Scarlet Knight listeners out there. But,
Boomer, they do have Rutgers at USC.
Yes, which will be kicking off at 11 p.m. for the 6 Rutgers fans that are going to stay up to watch that.
Man,
so,
that's hilarious. That's great.
That's a beautiful conference game, isn't it? So
I will say for the people that travel in for Western Nebraska, that you're basically, obviously you're taking a day off. I mean, Friday, if you're coming down, you're taking that off.
You're clearly staying over,
Yeah, and for the high school kids and everything, I feel for them too. They're going to have to. I know everyone will work things through. They'll figure out ways to play games earlier on Friday, or they'll figure out ways to play them on Thursday or Saturday. I'm sure that teams will do it. And I will also just caution people to realize it's one game. It's one weekend out of the season. And so, it's the first time that it's happened. We haven't played a home game on a non-Saturday since Rice 2001, the first game that was played after September 11th. So we haven't had the home games. We've been playing Friday night games, but they've all been on the road. So I would caution that. I would also say, hopefully in the future, we'll have more road options to not have to play this at home if we don't keep getting scheduled for teams' homecoming games. So win games and you won't be scheduled for homecoming. And maybe this won't be an issue here in the future. So
And like you did mention, Dave, the Ohio States and Michigans and Penn States don't seem to have to be participating in this at this point. But I mean, you've got Oregon plays 2 Friday night games. I mean, they're not
Yeah.
a small program by any stretch of the
The
imagination.
USC's got
USC.
one. Yeah.
USC does. UCLA's twice. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, so it's
Michigan State's got one. I mean,
yeah, they're not going to want to just put, you know, terrible teams on here. Eventually,
No.
will Michigan or Ohio State end up having to do this? You know, they do run the conference in a lot of ways. So
yeah.
that
But I
remains
feel
to
like
be
some
seen, but
non-con at some point where Michigan is playing whatever.
that wouldn't shock me either if they
randomly
slid a
play
you know,
Friday night
some
game,
random
yeah.
non-conference game in there, or you know, having a big non-conference matchup. But who knows? But
Sure.
you know, Fox likes their big noon kickoffs for those kind of teams too. But again,
Yeah.
like Honky says, win games, and you're probably likely to see yourself move to those big noon kickoffs as opposed to
So
Friday.
did I hear that right? That Rutgers USC would be an 11 p.m.
Yes.
Eastern.
Yes,
It'll
you heard
be
that
a
correct.
kickoff.
That's almost a Saturday morning game, really.
Yeah, so in a lot of ways, Rutgers, you're not playing on a Friday night.
you
Look
should
at it
just
that way.
start 1 hour late and just say it's a Saturday morning game,
Yeah,
and you're fine.
That'll work just fine. Yeah. That's what all
Big
it's about.
big midnight kickoff on
Big-
Fox.
yeah,
there
Big
for
10
them,
after dark. You know, perfect. Yep.
Kickoff.
So true.
Well, I mean, considering what I firsthand saw was a sold out game at Rutgers with I think almost like 20,000 empty seats in their stadium. Yeah, they're definitely maybe the two guys that threw corn at me after the game will be watching.
Greg says whenever I was going to a game in Scottsbluff, it would be a weekend. It's a 13-hour round trip.
Yeah,
Greg,
totally.
Greg lives out there with you now.
He
Rob.
does.
Not with you, but
no, he does not live with me. No, although we do have a
That'd
spare
be odd.
bedroom, Greg.
Yeah.
You know, but
The rent's outrageous. You don't want to. Yeah,
the rent's outrageous. Yeah, and you'll have to sleep with the cat. So, but yeah, he moved out here. I think about a week ago. We actually hung out a little bit on Tuesday
You're
night.
so popular, Rob, that our fans are now moving out to Greeley just to be closer to you.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Greg's
good
funny
people,
story,
too.
Hockey. This is not a joke. We walk into Bayside. We drive in on Thursday morning, last Thursday. We get into Bayside. We're in the clubhouse, and we're paying for our round. And this woman looks at Rob.
No, it was after 9. It was after 9 because we were getting our free
okay.
shot. Yeah.
Yeah. And looks at Rob and he's like, "I know you." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? This guy."
When Ogallala, Nebraska
Rob
was
is
like,
famous.
"I know you," and I looked at her, I was like, and I was like, I was trying to remember her name, and she reminded me it was Deb, and she's like, she works for
think it was
Adams
Lisa.
Trust, and yeah, it was like, or Lisa. You're right, it was Lisa. I thought it was Debbie. There you go, it was Lisa, and she works for Adams Trust and Bank, and she recognized me from some event that I went to, and I was like, "There you go, Dave. I told you this happens."
It's the Redcast Rob effect.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
I mean, Honky, you and I, when we hung out, I mean, we got recognized as Adam Sandler and Kevin James. So
Yeah, people keep thinking I'm Coach Rule, so I had someone in the restroom the
Well, I
other
mean,
day.
you have your name
That's
on your
awkward.
shirt, Honky. I mean, it's a bit ridiculous. I mean,
Well,
for the record,
I need to just wear this.
I'm wearing
around
this
now.
tonight too. Shout out to Shane and Laura of
Nice.
Smack and Smooch and the custom shirt that they made just for me. Drink the
drink
Kool-Aid.
the cool.
Hey, you know, we
don't do this-
Kool-Aid.
We don't
Yeah,
do
we
this
haven't
well
done the
enough.
sponsors, yeah.
The sponsors up top, Smack and Smooch, out there, they create the hats and the shirts and everything. They do a great job, Shane and Laura. And then Alumni Hall. I mean, my goodness, 2 locations down there, South Point and downtown Lincoln. When you're in Lincoln for the game on Friday night and any of the Husker weekends, go down to Alumni Hall, get yourself some Husker gear. They do a great job there. So,
Yeah.
So
And shout out to Herd
so
at
true.
Sports for carrying our show for us for all these years. And
heard that. We love
right.
you.
yeah,
We're like
Herd At.
like
Love
the
you, Chris.
OG with them.
Shout out to Chris Gorman.
The No Block No Rock guys, they had press passes the other night when we lost 15-3 or whatever at the baseball game,
Mhm.
and Connor was taking photos down there. So I was retweeting. I think that's super cool that they're doing that.
That's
They're doing
great.
a great job on that show. They've got great interviews. I'm really proud of what those guys have put together. But I had to give them some crap. I go, well, we had press passes too to Georgia Southern, and they've never invited us back again. So probably a rough game to have press passes to.
So I believe that Mike, I think it's Mike, works for Herd at Sports now too.
It's Kyle.
It's Kyle. Yeah, he
he's
works for
video
Herd
guy.
at Sports now, doing all their video and stuff like that, and does a fantastic job. By the way,
Yeah, super cool.
Absolutely fantastic work that those guys are doing. And every time I'm out there now, I go out of my way to hang out with Connor out at Nebraska Brewing, and just, man, they
Very
treat me
cool.
like family, and it's fantastic. Those guys are just,
I saw
they're
a
good,
lot
people.
of Nebraska Brewing Company beer out in the golf course actually this weekend. So kudos to them, dear old Nebraska and you. So, all right, guys. Boomer, we'll stay in football, but let's broaden it up a little bit here and go little kind of the wide angle here and talk about the comings and goings of college football in this lawsuit. And hopefully this is a little educational to all of us. But the story is that there's multiple lawsuits related to past NIL kind of loss of revenue essentially from players, and the NCAA is trying to settle out of court at a sum of $2.8 billion, I believe. Is that right, Boomer?
Yes, that's the settlement that they've announced they're offering. Today it finally hit the last cut. The SEC and the Pac-12 approved that settlement, as well as the Big Ten, Big 12, and ACC already had. So, yeah, and that is the approved amount that they're looking to pay back to prior athletes.
And so, how this works is that there's been lawsuits from former NCAA athletes that felt like they lost revenue because they were not able to sell their name, image, and likeness while they were in school, and then so there's various different legalese here going on, but they essentially can backdate that to 2016 from a kind of statute of limitation standpoint, and have said that NCAA athletes from 2016 forward that did not receive the opportunity to earn money from NIL will get a chunk of this settlement, which is $2.8 billion. I believe 1.1 billion of that is going to come from the NCAA reserve fund, their rainy day fund. Apparently, they just have $1 billion lying around. Must be nice, Honky, right? That's a good Dave Ramsey thing right there. If you've got $1 billion in the bank, but they're going to spend it here.
They usually drive used cars, Dave. So that's the thing.
That's right. Well, yeah, we have a used stadium. We didn't go out buy a new Memorial Stadium every 4 years, did we? We kept it for over 100, for goodness sakes.
Straight.
We just keep on replacing the parts. But and then 1.7 billion of that 2.8 will need to be paid by the schools. Now, when we say schools, we're talking all the schools in the NCAA, which is actually a huge pool, right? We have the Power Five, sure, but there's way more in not just Group of Five football, but all their non-football schools will have to pay something, I guess. But ultimately, it's 1.7 billion over a 10-year payout, right? I don't know exactly how that math shakes out, guys, but it will definitely impact the bottom line of
a lot of math.
Athletic
What
departments.
it is. Yeah,
it's a lot of math, and that's the Redcast's other passion is math, obviously.
Totally. We just love it.
But that's kind of it in a nutshell, Dave. The NCAA does have some reserve funds they can tap into. They also talked about needing some insurance money that they had for this, and some staffing reductions and other things to come up with their money. They wanted to reach a settlement because if they didn't, and the judges found for the plaintiff, usually the damages get tripled at the bare minimum, and that would
treble effect.
Yeah, that would bankrupt the NCAA. They'd have to declare bankruptcy, and I know a lot of people hate the NCAA, but if that happened, if you complain about the Wild West now in college athletics, if they were, completely impotent and gone, and God only knows what this
there'd be nothing left.
But there's nothing left.
Can I just point out we've missed two opportunities for Austin Power references here? Dave said billion, and he didn't put his pinky up, and then you just said in a nutshell, and nobody went, "This is me in a nutshell."
We left those for you, Rob. So.
Come on, Rob, get on the game, man.
I was trying, but I was also Boomer. Like,
well,
did you go to law school, Rob? Or is it just kind of your insurance? Like,
he dabbles in the law. It's no
he
big
dabbles in the law.
I let you have our high cultural references, Rob. So that's
thank you.
But yeah, and then like you said, Dave, about another 1.7 or so billion of this is supposed to come from it's from the schools, but it's being collected by reduced payments from the NCAA. They give out payments for the men's and women's basketball tournaments and other events they have. So they're going to hold money back that they would normally have sent to the conferences, the individual schools, and use that to apply to some of the sports, or
Yeah,
excuse me,
it's just
to
less
the sevens.
payout from the tournament, the NCAA tournament, essentially. Is that about
Yes, essentially, yeah. Everyone's going to take a hit on that, and that's also a big bone of contention between the the conferences itself. Because right now, what it has is your power conferences are going to pay about 660 million or so of that, and meanwhile, the other 27 non-power conferences, your groups of 5, your FCS, and your non-football conferences are supposed to foot 990 million of that. So a lot of them are very upset with the way the NCAA has approached this. They're questioning why we're supposed to foot the biggest portion of the bill when they're not the ones who are really benefiting from the high number of athletes. I think it was the VCU athletic director had commented about how 96% of the students or the student athletes in this lawsuit are Division I football and basketball players. And why are we getting, why are our budgets getting slapped for this? So that's a big bone of contention in this. And granted, it's spread out over 10 years, so it's not an immediate hit for all these programs. But, if you're like a West Coast Conference school, your budgets aren't that big to begin with. So if you're taking a, couple $1 million hit, every couple of years, that's a big chunk of your money. And that's tough for them to foot.
I think, Honky, I'm gonna throw this to you, but I mean that's a bitter pill for any of these small schools to swallow. But I see you smirking over there, and I guess like Boomer and I were talking about this a little bit before the show, and it's like it's funny to me in the sense that the NCAA is kind of in this spot because the rules apply across the entire NCAA. Right, and they've created tiers. There's Division I football and Division II and FBS, FCC, and there's different scholarship numbers, etc. But that was all created because the smaller schools were like, well, I can't pay for that many scholarships. I need a lower number, right? And I want a level playing field, right? And so, like a school like Nebraska, before we had scholarship limits, had 120 guys on football scholarships, no problem. But then we had to whittle it down to 85. And then there was FCS at 63, and Division II and Division III go further down from that. And so all those schools who were kept on trying to keep a lot of this out are now going to complain that they have to now pay their fair share, even though, if we actually had separated this a long time ago, maybe we wouldn't be in this spot. Just a thought. I don't know. What do you think?
Boomer, pretend for a moment that I don't know anything about metallurgy, engineering, or physics. Just tell me what the hell is going on. I have no idea. I have held back on this entire conversation because I don't have the foggiest clue what's going on or why this school is having to pay for it or whatever. I honestly have no idea.
It's complex. Yeah. And part of the complexity of it is that even with this agreement, there's no specifications of how schools are supposed to distribute this money back to those players. That's completely up in the air. Are they going to give it evenly to all their players from 2016 on? Are they going to focus on, the revenue generating sports or not? There's questions on, how does Title IX play into this? What happens if some of the student athletes don't agree with this, which they're likely not all going to? And there's still ongoing lawsuits that are unrelated to this. This isn't going to be the end of lawsuits reshaping college football. And another big part of this is they're also saying this is where now schools are going to be allowed to revenue share with some of their players as well. So they're going to be able to do $200 million $20 million.
$20 million per school
a year, up to $20 million annually of revenue sharing with their athletes. And again, that isn't set in stone how they're going to do that either. That's going to be up to the individual school what they want to do for this. So, there's talk of, you could use this to broaden your scholarships. Like, baseball, you're currently limited, 11.7 scholarships for 30
could be gone.
Roster. Yeah, schools could choose to, hey, we can fund all of our baseball, softball rosters now, or blow all $20 million on new hats for the football team. It's going to be totally up to what the schools want to do for this.
Really nice hats.
Yeah, nice
so
Johnny
Boomer,
Dangerously reference for Rob. So yeah, but
I've seen certain things said, on social media about how this could be the death of non-revenue sports. Is there any truth to that? Because if we're talking about non-revenue sports, isn't that pretty much just about everything other than football and men's basketball? Because even
And
though
Husker
volleyball makes
volleyball.
money here, but Husker volleyball is not a money making sport. It is in Nebraska, but 95% of the schools it's not. So, I mean, but I guess what's the people that are saying that? Why are they saying that? And do you see any truth to it?
Yeah, the ones that are really saying that are the schools that find themselves that think they're going to have to compete with that $20 million potential revenue sharing that schools are going to be able to offer. But, a lot of schools don't have $20 million sitting around. A lot of schools operate, in the red or barely breaking even. A lot of schools don't have profitable athletic departments. I was reading an article, from the Kansas AD, and he says, $20 million is like what we pay our coaching staff, so how do we find $20 million in our budget now just to fund players so we can compete in sports like we think we need
Especially when they're building a brand new football stadium. They're not taking the Dave Ramsey approach there down there in Lawrence. So.
Exactly. Good point, Honky.
When you can. But and that's where people fear that you're going to start seeing reductions in the non-revenue sports. Just they're going to have to try to find, or they're going to think they need to find $20 million somewhere.
Well, so
where are they going to do that? They're going to produce things. Yeah.
Let's expand on that a little bit, Boomer, because I think there's probably, I don't know, 2 conferences that have teams that think they probably can afford the $20 million per year, the Big Ten and the SEC. I mean, we've heard from Tom Osborne on our show, as well as Trev Albert saying, hey, this is going to happen. And it's like maybe 35 to 40 million is what they're maybe thinking that it might cost. So 20 million to me sounds like a bargain. And to Honky's point, this is why we are going to have games on Friday night on Fox, right? But if you're not in one of those 2 conferences, and the revenue is not going to be as easy to come by, and so like the choice, you're not required to pay out $20 million.
You're not.
You have the option to, right? And so like someone like Kansas is going to be like, do we want to compete in football for recruiting? Okay, answer is yes. Okay, we need to have 20 million of bankroll. And so we need to find that 20 million because we're not going to get it from TV revenue. If we want to play with the big boys, we're going to have to find that money. Or if we don't, then we might have to cut other non-revenue sports to get us to that 20 million for football, or we can just choose to not compete in football, right? Or choose to compete at a different level, right? If you cannot stomach the 20 million, you don't have the TV revenue and the boosters to fill the gap and all those type of things. You don't have the capital stack to compete at the highest level. Maybe you should choose to not compete at the highest level.
Maybe
right?
that's why A&M hired Trev, was to get rid of football. Who knows? So
he's done it before.
He's good at it.
There's one thing we know about A&M: is they don't have money to cover all these sorts of projects. For the boosters for that. Yeah, and some people ask, does this have any impact on the current NIL collectives? And no, it does not at this stage. I think
at this stage,
they can still exist, and I think the idea is the NCAA wants to get some more, kind of ground rules on those and some more enforcement on what they can and can't do. But again, that's still up in the air. So that's still going to be happening at this point. The collectives are still going to exist. So this is going to shake up quite a bit of college football. I mean, it's going to be a very different world, if and when this passes. Again, it still could be held up. The judge could still reject it. The players could still reject it, and
what is
will continue to change in this.
Boomer, what's a realistic time frame? Let's assume things do actually proceed and the judge pushes it along and all that. I mean, like when does the normal fan start to see a change from it?
Well, it would take a few months, I think, for the judge to review everything and, give everyone a chance to accept it, because the attorneys and their clients have to agree to this, and, maybe some won't, and they'll continue with their own lawsuits or whatnot. But, so that'll at least be a few months from now. So I don't think you would actually really see this kind of kick in until about 2025, especially the revenue sharing part of it. If it's accepted, then they'll start, reimbursing the prior student athletes at some point. But again, that'll be up to the schools how they do that, and that'll be its own challenge too. And who knows, billable hours is going to remain undefeated in all this. They're going to,
so true.
There's still going to be lawsuits in this. There's going to be a lot of questions on the Title IX aspects of this. How does that play out? Should it play out? I don't know.
Great point, Boomer.
Courts are going to fight over this a lot, I think, going forward. And it is going to be quite a bit different. Football's still going to be around. Sports are still going to be there, but they're going to start looking even more different than they have before. So,
And if
kind of
there's
So
one
to
thing
spin
we
this
know-
positively, Honky, Nebraska baseball may have more than 11.7 scholarships as
Which
soon
would
as,
be nice.
I don't know, next year.
Well, I mean, if we can
There
count
you
on
go.
anything, it'll be the NCAA to figure this out quickly.
right.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and in a
100%.
sensible manner with all the teams.
Yes.
And something
With
else
no
that is coming up
controversy.
with this is, I know this was briefly touched on, in the media last week or last few days, is talk of limiting roster sizes, especially in football.
Yeah.
There was talk of limiting, college football rosters to 85. Whether would come to fruition in all this or not, I don't know, but that's another thing that could be coming down the pike with all
You
this.
could kill the walk-on programs at places
That
like
would.
Nebraska.
Yeah, it
That'd
would.
be
I'm not sure
I don't
85
know why
is
they would
feasible.
do that. It doesn't make
Yeah,
any
I don't know
sense.
if that's feasible.
Dumbest
at the
thing I've
college
ever heard in
level,
my entire
but,
life.
maybe 95. Maybe they'd come to some sort of,
If they're going to
halfway
limit it shouldn't be at 85 then at that point.
No, I
because
don't
now
think
you have
85 you
unlimited
could do, 'cause
scholarships
you
anyway.
couldn't
So, like,
really field injuries at that point. It would be really hard to,
yeah.
because half, probably a fourth of your
It's
team
not
is
the
freshmen
NFL.
and can't play
NFL has a
anyway, so,
53-man roster, and
yeah,
hypothetically, all 53 of them can play right then and at a
Right.
high level, and they have a scout team beneath that, right?
yeah.
Whereas
And you've got a waiver
85,
wire and
you've
in
got-
pros too. You could pick up people as you need in the season. You can't really do that in
completely
college
different.
at this point. So
It's
I
weird.
don't think that this is my prediction. I don't think the 85-man roster would be approved, but it would not shock me at some point if it is. You see a 95 or 105-man roster or something to that effect become the.
Now you
the
piss
approved norm.
Honky off, Boomer.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well,
man.
It-
Really
well,
appreciate
I don't
it.
want
that
to,
kills
but
I'm trying to
my
wrap up the
trying to
show.
be realistic.
And
kills
now
my
we got
nephew's
another half
dream.
hour of
Yep.
Honky going off the
Yeah.
rails.
It kills my nephew's dream. My nephew Blake Manson. He wants to be a walk-on kicker at Nebraska.
Getting his name out of here, Rob, is not
Well,
probably.
why can't he
gonna
be a
help him
scholarship
get the-
kicker at Nebraska, Rob? Don't
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
He's the one who
Yeah.
told me he wanted to be a walk-on. So
Oh,
you
he's
know, I
just
just
that
need him to
generous.
believe in
Okay.
himself. That's all.
All right, that's fair.
Honky, thoughts, prayers, condolences.
I don't, I just, as long as there's college football still in 5 years, I'm happy. I mean, I have no idea right now what to.
That's what we
what
have
to
you on the
make of
show. for
any
this
of this.
cutting
I mean,
edge commentary.
Hopefully-
Mac and I have said this forever on the show. Can we just fast forward to whatever the future of college football is through all the portals and
This
NILs
could
and
get us
now-
there
now
quicker,
the-
Honk.
can
So
we-
that's the positive.
Yeah, can we just get to that moment and then start and just somebody say, okay, this is what football is going to be moving forward. We're not going to have crazy conference realignments and all kinds of things changing every single season, and go and just have it set. Because like right now, I don't care about what our schedule is in 2 years because it's going to change. I don't care about when, hey, we're going to play on a Friday night. All right. I guess, I can't blame the school for anything. I'm not blaming Nebraska for playing on Friday night. Right now, things are just happening. You have gigantic TV contracts and things just change and you want to be part of it. I guess you just do it. So,
Well, Boomer, I look forward to next week's show when we talk about private equity within the college
Yes.
football field.
Yeah,
It's
let's talk about it.
He is
Let's-
going to be.
Yep, they'll be thrilled.
can we
We
talk
talk
about
about,
hedge funds for Christ's sakes?
Yeah, the real estate sales and leasebacks in Memorial Stadium are going to be great.
Yeah.
But I just
Matt,
wanted
what do
to
you think
comment
about Drew
something Greg
Weatherford?
asked
And
about if there's a requirement of a certain number of teams the school has to have in order to be an FCS. Yes, they do. They have to have 16 teams, including football. 6 of them have to be men's, and at least 8 all-female teams is the way those rules work. So there are currently limits, but again, this is the NCAA, and anything can change at the drop of a hat or another lawsuit. So
change a rule.
this stuff can change pretty fast. So.
Penn State just hit a grand slam to go up 7-5 in the bottom of the 8th.
Look at that 8 seed firing
Yeah, there we
away.
go.
All right. Excellent.
In hockey, when it comes to realignment, the ACC could be dead by the summer, so who knows? So
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that is true. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
maybe Cal.
Oh,
Stanford, yeah.
Stop the presses. Honky just said it. ACC's dead by the summer. Put that up
Sure.
on the on YouTube.
Well, and-
That's-
Oh my
Unless-
God, that's our YouTube algorithm right there.
unless Cal, Stanford, and SMU can save it, which I'm pretty confident about. I mean, that's a big trio coming in. So, and it makes a lot of sense. Have you seen the schedules, the football schedules of Cal and Stanford and SMU? That it is so bizarre.
I mean,
One of them is still playing Oregon State this year because Oregon State just needs,
The
teams,
team.
right? So one of them's playing Oregon State, and then they go to Syracuse the next week, and then they go down to SMU, and then they go to Florida, and then they play San Diego State. It's like, what is, whatever. This
Can
is
you
football in
imagine the
2024.
can you imagine the audience though, for the whole new East Coast audience that the big game is going to bring in now every year when Cal plays Stanford?
Yeah, true.
Absolutely. They're going to make it a
Right.
national game of the week. You know, the band is on the field. Like every year, they're going to just send the band on the field on the last play of the game. It's going to be fantastic.
That would be like performance art, really. You know, like a happening.
Be the best play of the game in those games right now.
We'd just be waiting for it.
Aaron Rodgers ain't walking out of that
Wisconsin.
tunnel anytime soon. Neither is Jim Plunkett. You know?
Or, John Elway.
Or John Elway.
All right, guys. Anything else we're going to cover? As usual, there's nothing to talk about, and here we are an hour later. So
There's always stuff to talk about, Dave. That's the beauty of sports.
That's right.
Never
all right,
know.
well, let's get out of here with your best parting shots and make them.
I'll go first. I have nothing.
No, Honky, I'm going to make you go last then. Sorry. Rob.
All right. Well, hey, I would just like to give a big shout out to the people of Gothenburg, Nebraska for having the crazy 16 guys that were out there this weekend who
Western
invaded their town
Nebraska
in
Bro-Am.
Western Nebraska Bro-Am 2024. It was actually pretty cool. We got to hang out at one of the local taverns there, and we started talking to some of the locals and picked up maybe a couple new followers. I mean, they handed me their phones and I found the podcast for them and had them start following it, and immediately popped up our last episode. And it was a lot of fun. And
they're like, "Whoa, Coach Rule's on your show?"
Yeah, and the wind was just, man, it was unrelenting.
Saturday morning,
my
was,
Lord.
interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I literally all but 4 of us played from the women's tees on Saturday morning because no, Dave did not, and he likes to brag about it. But whatever, Dave. Everyone else was doing it. So, but we had a great time, and it was so much fun. And thank you to the people of Gothenburg for having us out there and putting up with us. Nobody was arrested, and nobody walked away with any too much shame, I should say. I'm sure there was some shame involved in there, but it was not me.
True.
Yeah, it was not me. Actually.
All right, Boomer.
Yeah, I don't have much either. I just, I guess I figured there might be some hope for the upcoming college football season because every other team I'm cheering for right now is just so offensively inept. Vancouver Canucks just never bothered to try to shoot pucks during the postseason and got
made the
knocked out of
playoffs though.
And then St. Kilda just is god awful in AFL this year. They can't score more.
Always better than the Roos of North Melbourne.
Well, that's a low bar, Dave, but still,
it's the lowest bar you could possibly set. Actually,
I'm saving up all my offensive, cheering for Nebraska football this year, so it's bound to work out. So it couldn't possibly be an omen of things to come. So
I like it. All right, Honky, you had plenty of time to reconsider. Bring it home.
Nope. All I've got is thank you, Redcast Nation. We had over 300 throughout the show tonight for a random late Thursday night, talking with absolutely no prep time and just talking about whatever came across our mind. This is fun. We used to do a lot of planning on our shows, and we don't do as much of that now. It's just like, are we doing
we're that good though, Honky.
Yeah,
that's why.
That's right.
You couldn't tell you didn't come in here with any prep, Honky. That's the beauty.
No,
it's seemed rehearsed.
I appreciate that.
Is it like 1,000 now? Have you done?
Geez, yeah. Well, we're probably about 500 of these things now, but I do want to. Where is this one? Andrew. Mike is Boomer. For the people that don't know, Boomer's first name is Mike, but
Michael. It's Michael.
Too damn smart, and
it's true.
I agree there, Boomer. I enjoyed just sitting back. Normally, I'm asked to do quite a bit of talking. This was a great show for me. I could just sit back and listen to Boomer just wax poetic about all kinds of legalese and everything. That was a lot of fun. I was smirking earlier.
That's what the fans demand. It's what the people want.
You mentioned I was smirking earlier, Dave. I put it on mute and I was looking up the Ghostbusters line where Venkman says that, because I was like, how do you say metallurgy? And I was like, okay, that's how you say it. So I had to look. I looked it up. I found the line, and then I was like, I gotta listen to the word though. I can't just say it because I'm gonna say metallurgy, or something.
Metallurgy.
I was the architect major that said facade one time, and when it was,
Yeah.
I was reading the book. We were freshmen in college. I'm an architect major. I'm reading out loud to the guys, and I said facade, and they looked at me like, what is that? And I showed it to them. They go, that's facade, honky. You're an architect major. It's like, yeah, not for long.
For much longer.
No, so no worries about him going to facade for Memorial Stadium. So we're set.
Yeah. Memorial Stadium still is the best facade of any stadium I've seen across the country. Yeah,
True.
Facade.
second to none. So there's my parting shot. How about that?
Nice job. See, I knew you'd had
Thanks.
something in you. I knew you had it. All right, guys. A lot of fun. I enjoyed the show. Hey, maybe we should do another one of these. What do you think? I don't know.
We could probably pencil some in. Yeah.
Let's
You know
win
what?
some
Let's
baseball
do it.
games
Let's
this
do it
weekend.
next week. I was gonna say let's do it next week after we win the Big Ten tournament.
All right.
If
And
we
we're
win the Big
prepping-
Ten tournament, Rob, I'll be
When?
right there with you, man.
When?
Absolutely, we'll do one right after.
When?
Sure.
Yes.
All right. Sounds good.
Hey,
All right,
everybody,
guys.
have a great 3-day weekend. By the way.
Happy Memorial Day
Yeah.
and all that jazz. For now, let's call that another Go Big Redcast.
Go Big Red.
GBR.
A Herd at Sports Network production.